All right, they're going to have a board meeting on Wednesday. And it's loaded with pork, 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 pork. You can see about it on my blog. It's so insulting. They can't run a transit district, but boy, they can sure shovel out the pork, can't they? All right, continuing.
Thank you. I've been told by audio team I need to lower my
Well, I thought she already talked. Well, let's hear her again.
mic. Is that better? Okay, thank you. I completely agree with Dr. Gonzalez's points, and also President Simmons. Just to clarify, I'm not saying there isn't anybody who's not going to be paying into the system. We need to find resources. Again, we need to find funding.
Oh, so she's backing off. Yeah, she did that last time. Remember, she came out and made all these great comments, and then she didn't go anywhere with it. So we're seeing it again. Instant replay for Kathy Way.
I think this is where this A team, folks can continue to help.
I just got through posting about the board meeting, and hundreds of millions are being shoveled out to their pork barrel buddies. And here they are whining about fares. It's so insulting. I can barely stand watching these people because they're such lying hypocrites. Either they're ignorant as hell and don't understand the big picture, or they're just lying to us. It's one or the other.
Help us strategize with what to do there as a board. I also wanted to...
And they're going to always say, when you bring this point up, they say, well, that money has to do that. That money is only for these particular purposes. And as I quoted Bastiat, when a society becomes so corrupt, it codifies the corruption. And that's what they've done in our society. They've codified their looting. Their looting is part of law now. And meanwhile, we can all die in the street for all they care.
I think Jamie was the one who brought this up, but it sounded like there was a Fairless System Initiative Task Force. I had written that down, that LA Metro convened. And so, I'm thinking outside of this conversation that we're having here with our team, and I know there might be some folks who are live streaming, but I'm looking around and I don't know if there's other members of the public who are here today, but I think this is a great starting point conversation. But I think that we need to be intentional about the community engagement piece, the public affairs, right? How do we want to structure, at least for me, exploring and going through this sort of fairless model or fairless subsidized system in the way that is going to be equitable with the voices that we want to see around the table. So those are just some thoughts and comments that I have. And then I just also would be remiss if I didn't talk about some of the planning work that TIAC is already wanting to do around creating a subgroup or subcommittee to look at fares, to look at fairless options. I know that that was something that we had talked about at the retreat. There was also some discussion around, safety that has continued to come out of our community groups that we regularly convene as a board, and that each of us are board liaisons of. So I also want to make sure that we are including as many
blah 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 blah
community voices as we can, because, like I said, at the end of the day, it is the board's decision, but we should be able to hear feedback.
A board of unelected, you're unelected, unaccountable. You do not answer to the public, and you only pretend to listen to the public. We know it, and you probably even know it.
Back from everybody from all walks of life.
All walks of life, says Kathy.
Thank you, Director Bauman.
Uh-oh.
Right.
All right, this is going to be bad from Bauman. I know where she stands.
I have just a couple of comments. I guess I first want to thank everyone today who's created this presentation and worked so hard on it. I think this has been really excellent information for the board. I also want to comment that TriMet has done a fantastic job providing great service at a price that has not...
See, listen to that garbage. TriMet provides great service. Well, obviously, you are completely clueless, aren't you? Completely clueless or lying, one or the other. I mean, I imagine they're clueless. because the only time they think about this is at these board meetings. They don't follow it like we do, or like me like there's 5 people that follow this material. It's only 5 of us. It's a very small group. So she's saying we provide great service. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Not changed in many years.
It's not changed in many years, says the misinformed.
We should acknowledge that there's been some great work around that, including finding other sources of funding, like House Bill 2017.
Yeah, let's get that clear. They threw that in the House Bill 20. First of all, 2017 was not approved by the voters. That was shoved down your throat by the legislature. Okay, they just stole your money without your vote. But they threw in this thing for the low-income fare to make it look like they care about you when that's like 1% of the 2017 budget. The rest of it goes to pork barrel projects. Okay, it was a money grab. That's what it was. The purpose of government is crime, and there's been no exceptions.
I also agree with Director Gonzalez that the agency should continue to put efforts into 2 things: increasing ridership and increasing compliance in paying fares. And the reason for that is that
Well, I knew she was going to say that because I heard her in a previous meeting talk down to like she's a superior human being to the people on the transits. She's talked down about riders in the past.
If we do have a fare increase in the future, we don't want it to appear to be increasing fares in order to offset the fact that fewer people are riding. I mean, I think there'll be some perception of that, that this is a kind of a cost that's being imposed on those who do pay and those who do ride because ridership is down. And we want to avoid that. It's best for all of our community that folks are using our system. It reduces congestion. It advances our climate goals. And in that regard, I'm very excited about this comprehensive service analysis that the agency has undertaken, and we're looking at ways to serve people better and go where people need to go and increase ridership. So that's kind of a preliminary thought that we need to use the tools that we have now to get more people to ride and to increase our revenues in that fashion. As I think about this issue and as I think about fares, I think about people who, and I think about the equity around fares. I think about the folks who are on fixed incomes, and that's folks, seniors and people with disabilities whose income is Social Security. And we do have on slide 13 showing that the Social Security benefits between 2010 and 2021 did undergo about a 2% increase. I can tell you that there were years after the Great Recession when Social Security benefits did not increase, and that's because inflation was zero.
Inflation has never been zero. Just look at the cost of housing. She's lying or she's stupid. The cost of housing has been going straight up for the last decade. So what are you, a stupid or a liar? Which one is it? You're supposed to be smart.
But this past year, this data goes till 2021. I think this past year the increase was about 5%.
No, wrong. It's officially 8%, but the true figure is more like 20%. Okay, look at housing. Cost of buying a house in the last year alone went up 20%. That's just the cost of a house. Rents have gone up 20%. Gas has gone up more than 20%. So she's lying.
If I'm not mistaken, in Social Security benefits. And so
God help the people that only live on Social Security benefits, because they're going in the ditch if they're not in subsidized housing. And even if they are in subsidized, they're still going in the ditch.
Even the folks who are really financially at the margins of our society have seen increases in their benefits. I'm not saying that we want to impose burdens on those folks, and in fact, they are eligible for the low-income fare, and in a lot of cases have other sources to pay for their bus passes. But my point is that all throughout society, costs have increased, but also, again, benefits to those who are really dependent on those federal benefits. Those payments have increased to them. And so I think that as long as we're not outstripping those increases, I think our fares should represent, kind of fairly represent the costs that that our riders would pay to ride on the system. We've gone through an unusual time after the Great Recession when inflation was just about zero. We now, in the past year or so, have seen greatly increased inflation. Whether that continues, no one knows. But I do think our fares should reflect, what's going on economically in our throughout the economy, and that is that prices are going up. So our fares, I think, have to, at least to some degree, reflect the fact that the cost of operating the system is increasing. So again, I know, as Director Gonzalez says, we're not going to give you direction on how much a fare increase should be, but I tend to agree that we should look at a fare increase, and that it should be one that is that is equitable and goes hand in hand with a strategy to increase ridership.
You can't increase ridership and increase the fares, okay? Well, it's just disgusting, isn't it?
Thank you, Director Bauman. Other board members.
Okay, I don't want to hear anymore. I want to do some calls, something fun. Listening to these people make me sick.